What's up, Infected, and welcome to the Kwarenteen. Today I'm going to be reviewing a game by the name of Heart of Crown. Now, Heart of Crown is a deck builder where the Emperor has died, so you're trying to coronate one of your princesses to then take over the kingdom. And you do this with a little bit of cutthroatness, but you're trying to build up your domain and prove that you have the best princess for the job. Now, I do need to mention that some of the things you'll see in this video may be Kickstarter exclusives, and I do also have the Far East territory and the Nordic Enchantress expansion mixed in as well, along with things like, you know, the metal coins and stuff like that. But overall, it won't really affect the review. It's just what I have in my box. So this is Heart of Crown set up, ready to be played, and basically what you're going to do is the random market, which is the centerpiece of the game flow and the market, you're going to build out of these cards. Now this is the randomizer deck that you're able to use, and this is one of every card that's included in the game. Now keep in mind, I'm also including expansion cards and some of the upgrades like these coins and stuff like that. But the idea is still the same. You're going to choose 10 of these cards, either at random or you can choose. You're going to shuffle that plus the rare cards together, and you're going to create a central deck. You're going to draw out cards until you have 8 different cards. So as you see here, we have our 8 different cards, but when I drew a duplicate, you're going to put it on top of a card and keep going until you have 8 completely different cards, and you're going to set up this as you see over here. Now you're going to only use so many curse cards based on the number of players, but I have them all out right now. Then you're going to build your starting deck with 3 apprentice maids and 3 farming villages. You're going to take those, give them a good shuffle, and now you have your starting deck and you're ready to play the game. Alright, to start you're going to draw 5 cards from your deck, and now you're ready to play. Now the game is played in a series of rounds. So if you look at some of these cards, as you see here, there's an arrow here. And that's how you chain what cards you're going to play. So unlike normal or some other deck builders where you can only play so many cards and you play cards that give you other plays, if I were to play this, it's got an arrow, so I can play another card. Now it has an arrow, I can play another card. So on and so forth. However, some cards also have an arrow down at the bottom. So if it did, I could play, say, the card that has an arrow at the bottom, and then I can start playing off of that, for example. So that way you're able to start chaining these cards, and sometimes it's very satisfying when you start getting several tiers of these rows just going and you're able to pull off some outstanding combos. However, some of the more powerful cards, such as this, does not have an arrow on this side, so once you play that, that is the end of that row. So you kind of have to gauge what cards you're going to buy in order to plan in the future how you're going to go. So I mean, overall it works pretty much the same way play this symbol to get more plays. You get more of a visual feel for, how many plays you're allowed to have. So it's a really cool system. Now, once you have princesses in the main phase, you can go ahead and either keep cards or you can take cards from your domains, which will make a little bit more sense later. Now, after you've played all of your cards, you're going to move on to the next phase. Now that you can do one of 3 different actions in the main phase, or in the second phase. You can buy cards from the market using the coins here. So in this case, I have 3 gold that I get to buy cards with. Or you can back a princess if you have 6 gold. Or you can play succession cards into your domain. So you can only do that, of course, once you have a princess. Now the succession cards are generally green, as you see over here. And these are victory points. So if I were to play this card into my domain, I just have 3 victory points. But you forfeit buying anything or backing a princess, but at that point you don't need to back any more princesses. Alright, so let's say I'm going to go ahead and buy something, so I'm going to spend 2 of this gold, and I'm going to go ahead and buy this, which then goes to my discard pile. Nothing out on the market costs 1, so I'm going to go ahead and lose that coin, and then you move on to the cleanup phase. So all of your cards that you played, any cards in your hand, are going to go into your discard pile. And you're going to draw back up to 5 cards. Then you refresh the market. So you're going to reveal the top card and see if it matches anything out here, which in this case it does. So then you're going to draw another card, and you're going to keep doing this until you have 8 unique cards. So I think this one is, so boom. Now I have 8 unique cards for the next player, and you're going to pass turn. Keep note that These cards on the side are always available for you to be able to purchase. Except for the curse cards, certain cards will give curse cards. However, later on in the game, once you have the ability to spend 6 gold, as you see here, during the second phase, you can then choose which one of these princesses that you'd like to nominate. So for example, maybe I will take the twins. And once you take a princess, you're going to put them off to the side, and you'll put the rest of the princesses back out. Then you're going to take the 3 highest territories that you've played this round, and you're going to put them into your domain, which is very important later for, which I've already mentioned, being able to take and leave cards. So in future rounds, you're able to, at the very beginning, store cards on your territories here that have an equal or less cost than one of the territory cards. So for example, I can store this card on this, but I can't store it on here because it's got a cost of 3. But that would allow me to maybe make one of my future hands even more powerful by taking some of these cards. Which winds up having some really interesting strategies. Do you wait until you've played really high territories so you can store some strong cards? Or do you throw out, farming villages or something just so you can hurry up and get the princess you want before somebody else takes it? Then once you have your princess and your domain that you have here, you're able to, instead of buying cards, if you have succession cards in your hand, you can store them off to the side to show that you have points. During your turn, if you ever achieve 20 or more victory points, as you see here, I have 5, and you can also use these coins to track, victory points as well, so it's a little easier for people to see. Once you've hit 20, you'll finish out the round, and if only one person has hit 20, you've now coronated your princess, and she is going to be the princess of the land, and you're declared the winner. However, if multiple players reach 20 victory points by the end of that round, then everybody who achieved 20 victory points have to play a sudden death to the first person that reaches 30, but everybody else that could not quite reach that 20-point deadline is knocked out and no longer viable for winning. There are 2 types of cards that I do want to talk about as well. You have attack cards and you have defense cards. So attack cards do what you would think. If I were to play this card, you're going to do what it says, and it usually involves you of directly affecting another player, making them discard cards, making them, in this case, all players, including you, reveal the top card from the draw piles. You get to choose to discard each of those cards revealed this way. After that, you just get to draw a card. So that could be pretty devastating if maybe another player throughout their turn was able to stack some of the cards. Then you have defense cards. Defense cards, if I were to play this, you can reveal a defense card and you're going to effectively negate what happened with the card, and then you may get to use the ability on the bottom of it. So for this one, says defense effect, place this Kunioki card face up on the top of your draw pile. So I'll be able to go no, and then now it goes here, and now my opponents now know I'm gonna have that card my next round. And as you see here, this card has a right and a down arrow, so this would be one of those pivotal cards that allows you to play cards in kind of different areas, such as this, and being able to allow that to chain out. And that's how you play Heart of Crown. Now, what do I think about Heart of Crown? Well, first and foremost, I love the anime art style, and I love deck builders. And the theme I thought was really cool. I really enjoyed the overall theme. So it was a shoo-in for me to go ahead and pick up. And it's from Japanime Games, which most of their products I thoroughly enjoy. So when I first got a hold of it and read through the rulebook that you see here, it reads pretty well. There's very little question and very little, having to go back, okay, well, what did that mean, and anything like that. So that's great. The rulebook reads really, really well. And as you saw, I got a lot of the bonus stuff, these coins here, which more on that later. But normally the game comes with some cardboard coins, which, as you saw there, they're not necessary to gameplay. Sometimes, you'll need them to track, victory points, certain princesses, when certain things happen, or certain cards, for that matter. It'll tell you, put a marker on the princess to get additional points, stuff like that. And that's mainly where you're going to use these coins from. Other than that, they're just a nice thing to have. So the cardboard ones will do most people perfectly fine. But what do I think about the game overall? Well, the game overall is phenomenal. That central build deck is great. So you have a similar like Ascension and what's the other one called? Star Realms kinda style build row where you have these cards out and you're going to be buying from the central row, and that's how you're going to fill out your deck. But then you have that combined with like Tanto Kore, which, spoilers, is my favorite deck builder, possibly, where you have a static build pile and everybody knows, you know, all the cards that are available. And you kind of get the best of both worlds here because you're going to use 10 cards, but you're going to have 8 unique cards. So 2 of those are not going to be available. But then when that buy pile dries up and is out, it's out. They're gone. You keep playing. And there's only, I'm wanting to say 4 or 5 of each card on top of that in the deck. So it winds up strapping you like really quick. Okay, do you get these cards that you absolutely need for your strategy and get them before everybody else takes them? Or do you go ahead and start, you know, buying large cities and cities to fill out your deck and make, you know, more money so you can buy more stuff later? And so you're struck with these dilemmas because they're both viable. You know, do you hurry up and buy the cards that you want, or do you try to get your economy running first so you have a better late game? But then by the time you get to that late game, maybe the cards you need are all bought up, so now you have a problem. And that's the core, you know, the core thing that I love about this game, because it's a really cool idea. And because rather than a central deck like you know, Star Realms or anything like that, you know, if somebody buys that one card, you're not just screwed. You know, you have 8 unique cards out there to choose from, which is cool. And then on top of that, you take the arrows, which are awesome. The fact that you're having to chain these cards very specific ways, as you see here. And you know, I know a lot of games. You know, another one of the deck builders that I really like, you know, Barbarossa and El Alamein, they do something, you know, kind of similar, but it's not as visual. You have, you know, you play a card, you have one play, and you play it, and then maybe that card gives you more plays, and you do that. So you have to keep track, okay, I have 2 plays, I did this, got to get rid of 1, I did this, it gave me 2 more. This does the same thing, but very visual, very much, is that words? I don't think so. But a lot easier. And so you can very clearly see how many more things can you play. This arrow led to this one led to a dead end. Okay, you're done with that branch, keep going. And it's such an ingenious little design, and it works brilliantly. And I love that part. And then you add in the attack and defense cards, which forces player interaction. Because on top of that, you know, if you want a friendly game, don't put in any attack cards. If you flip one over, if you're doing randomly with these, you know, all these cards, you're doing randomly, if you flip over an attack card, don't put it in, not a big deal. Or do you want that player interaction? Maybe put in, out of your 10 cards, maybe put 4 of them to defense, 2 attack. Force some player interaction, then randomize the other ones. You know, so you have a lot of flexibility in how you're going to play, which is brilliant because a lot of deck builders don't do that. A lot of deck builders is very much a solo game and with very minimal player interaction, and this breaks that. You can directly affect each other. And then when you take into effect that it is effectively a race, you know, maybe you want that princess, but maybe somebody else wants that princess too. So now you both are in a race to the finish to try to get that princess because you've built your whole strategy around getting that one princess, and now you don't have it. What do you do? And so that's phenomenal. However, the game's not without its flaws. The biggest one being are these princess cards. Now, some of them are clearly better than others. For example, the first princess, Lulu Sakya, I think is what her name is, her. You know, you'd think that's really cool. 6 points just right out of the gates. You only need 14 points more. The problem is, that's all she does. Some of the other ones, like, reduce the buy cost of all cards, and you get these awesome abilities. So, some of the princesses are clearly better than others. Which, there is a variant to the game that allows you to, you know, I buy a princess, I also remove one from the game as well. So not only am I getting the princess I want, if I know that you wanted this princess, I get rid of it. Now maybe forcing you to use those subpar princesses. Which kind of leads into another thing that some people may not like is, especially if you use that variant, there is very much a rich get richer system to the game, which a lot of deck builders have to varying degrees. You know, if you're doing well, you're going to continue to do well. But if you use that variant, you're kind of also like reinforcing that a little bit more. Overall, it's not a super big deal, but some people are going to have a problem with that. Now, the last complaint that we had is the end game. Now, with the fact that if I reach 20 points, we have until the end of this round. And if me and one other person get to 20 points, if you're playing with, 4 players, the other 2 people are effectively eliminated from the game. So they just get to sit there. So if you invite a bunch of friends over and 2 of them get knocked out, those 2 people aren't having a lot of fun anymore. Which, is a minor gripe because there's plenty of games out there that have player elimination. And it gives you incentive to, okay, we'll keep up. Maybe next time you'll be able to play a little bit better, but that's gonna turn some people off because player elimination does suck if you're that player that gets eliminated because, you've been playing this game, you've been having a blast, having a lot of fun, and then now you're like, well, I guess I'll fart around on my phone then, and that's pretty much the rest of your game is, which kind of sucks, but I don't find it as big of a deal because usually you know who you're going to be playing with, and that last 10 points that you have to get to try to win, generally speaking, doesn't last too terribly long, maybe another 20-30 minutes, if that, because it's usually you and one other person, maybe a third, and that, the other player can fart around his phone and interact with people, and they're still kind of involved, just not involved in the game, but that's definitely going to turn some people off. But overall, I absolutely adore Heart of Crown, and earlier in the review I mentioned that Tontokori is my favorite deck builder, and I don't know if this is going to dethrone that. It may. Purely because, my favorite thing about Tontokori is just how much stuff there is. I've never once played the same game of Tontokori. And Heart of Crown is actually very similar, but with less number of cards. Because, that central deck where you have to get those cards that you need as soon as possible is so cool. And then, your economy is suffering because of it. So then now you're playing to catch up with your economy, but maybe another player chose a different strategy. They're building their economy. Now they're just buying a ton of cards every round. And now suddenly, boom, out of the blue, they buy a princess. And now you're scrambling trying to play catch up. And there's just so many viable different strategies. It's a phenomenal game. I absolutely adore it, and it's in the running for my favorite deck builder. Anyways, that is my review for Heart of Crown. Fantastic little game. If you like deck builders, pick it up. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time in the Quarantine.